What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Panthers advice. So Sunday I did a video talking about Bryce Young's contract extension, and in that video I talked about, okay, there's 4 games left in the season. He's got some leverage if they can somehow beat the Buccaneers, right? And it seemed like they got to beat them twice because the Buccaneers, they were playing the Saints, and I didn't see the Buccaneers losing. I thought there was a small chance as I watched the game, but I'm like, I think the Saints, they don't have enough in them. I was wrong. Ooh, boy, was I wrong. And so as I look at this last 4-game stretch, we're going to take a look at some notes and some tiebreakers and go over some other things, all right, that the Panthers have done in the last week, right, since the bye week. It's crazy to think that the Panthers have I can't say great chance yet, right, because there's still 4 weeks left. A lot could happen. But they have a pretty good chance to make the playoffs. And really, they're in control of the destiny. If they beat the Bucs twice, they're in. I think, right, as long as they don't lose the other 2, right? Knock on wood, though. But it's crazy to see what this team's done. From the struggles with the offensive line, to the struggles at quarterback, to switching Rico to Chuba, Chuba to Rico, vice versa, right? The receivers, right? Let's go back to that real quick. Like, they traded Adam Thielen, and then Coker gets hurt, right? So then you go into the season, you got Tedero McMillan, you got Leggett, who's kind of struggling. You're not playing Jimmy Horn at all. You had Hunter Renfrow in. And you're like, okay, what happened to this offense? I thought this offense, especially when it came to receivers, we were deep. Right? Was not it. But you saw little sparks here and there. You saw Scorton, you saw Princely, you saw Mitchell Evans, you saw Trayvon Merrick start to step up and make big plays. You saw that defensive line, Patrick Jones, before he got hurt, started to make big plays on the outside. Derek Brown, obviously, and Tershawn Wharton when he was healthy. And then what I think the big turning point on defense was when they switched Roseboom and Trevin Wallace, right? So Trevin Wallace started controlling the defense more, and then Roseboom came alive, and then Trevin Wallace came alive, and then Nick Scott has started to play better, right, the last 3 to 4 weeks. Mike Jackson with a pick 6. J.C. Horn, he's been doing his thing. Trayvon Merrick wasn't even in last week, and you saw what the defense did. Then you got Bryce Young, who's kind of had a roller coaster of a season, goes out and sprinkles a few touchdowns, all right, against the Rams. 15 for 20, if I'm not mistaken. He's looking good. Chuba looks like he got his bounce back. They still have to figure out that Chuba-Rico dynamic. And then the offensive line, something I haven't adjusted enough. To a point, right? To a point. Is how good they've been, right? You keep plugging in guys. They get hurt, this guy goes in. Then they switch this guy left guard to center, right guard to center, to tackle, blah, 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 right? And they still keep dominating the trenches. Because when Bryce Young gets sacked, I think there's only 1 or 2 games where he got pretty much obliterated. Other than that, he's almost taken that sack upon himself, whether holding on to the ball too long or leaving the pocket. So this team as a whole, it's crazy to see where they've came from. Like what I said before, where they traded Thielen and then Coker gets hurt, and then you got Renfrow in and him and Bryce Young can't connect, and Coker's still out, and Leggett, you don't know what you're getting yet, and T-Mac, he's starting to grow a little bit, but nobody's taking off. Right, and then you saw what they've become now. So without further ado, man, let's jump into the video. A couple things to go over, including the playoff picture, tiebreakers, all that, man. Let's get into this. So first up, we're talking about Jonathan Brooks right here. Now, the Brooks thing is crazy, okay, because at the beginning of the season, obviously, he basically goes on IR. He's out for the season. So you went from having Brooks, Rico, and Chuba to really just Chuba and Rico and Etienne, right? Can't forget about him. And I was like, ooh, Rico might be the odd man out. Now it gets confusing, right? Because Rico looks like the best potential running back on the team. All right, Chuba's good at the backfield. It's going to be interesting right here, but let's take a look at what this article says. All the hype centers on the Carolina Panthers' current running back tandem of Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, who could spearhead a possible quest for the NFC South Championship, all right? But there was one forgotten playmaker who was looking to bounce back from some grave misfortune in the not-too-distant future. Hubbard was the focal point coming to the campaign. Dowdle was a free agent revelation who's taken the Panthers by storm. 4th-round rookie Trevor Etienne is also contributing, albeit in the return game rather than generating prominent carries this early into his professional career. The 2024 second-round pick was arguably the best running back in his class. Carolina thought a lot of the player, trading up to secure his services at number 46 overall. Despite his recovery from a torn ACL, it was a long road for Brooks, but the same issue in the same knee ended his rookie exploits almost as quickly as they began. Brooks was placed on the PUP list, ruling him out for the 2025 campaign. It's been out of sight, out of mind, but the former Texas standout told Joe P. of The Athletic that he is aiming to get back into the practice field in time for OTAs before ramping things up at training camp. Says this right here: I want to be back for OTAs so I can get back on that football field and get back to running the plays full speed, being in a team setting. Just whenever we do hit training camp, I can hit the ground running and ultimately just prove myself. It's going to be interesting with Brooks. All right, kind of goes on to talk about what we talked about. You got Rico, you got Chuba, and Rico's a pending free agent. So what do the Panthers do there? That's going to be a tough decision because Rico, to me, has proven himself. You just gave Chuba that contract, right? You signed Trevor Etienne last year. He's done everything you want to do as a rookie. And then you got Brooks coming off not one, but 2 torn ACLs in that same knee. The Panthers are going to have some decisions to make when it comes to the running back position because you either potentially trade Chuba, you don't give Rico the contract, or you try and trade Trevor Etienne. Man, that's going to be tough. Or you potentially try and trade Jonathan Brooks, right? Coming off 2 torn ACLs. That's going to be a tough thing, all right, for the Panthers to figure out. But let's keep this going. Talk about how the Panthers, man, their playoff odds moved up quite a bit. Let's get into this. And we're going to jump into the tiebreakers. What happens if the Panthers win 1? What happens if the Panthers win 2? Kind of so on and so forth, right? But here's the thing. The Panthers return this week. They're going to take on the Saints, all right, for that 4:25 Eastern time kickoff at the Saints. So remember, the Saints came here a couple weeks ago, beat the Panthers, and really it wasn't even by that much. They had a couple crazy catches. The offense, they couldn't produce. But as you take a look right here, when the Saints beat the Buccaneers, this is what their quarterback had. 13 for 20, 144, 1 interception, sacked 3 times. Okay, but their rushing game, QB had 2 rushes, 4 touchdowns, running back had 1. So the passing isn't even what beat the Bucs. The Bucs shut down the pass game. Look at the Panthers against the Bucs. Tyler, all right, 282. You definitely can't have that. Now, with that being said, Chris Olave had that big one. Was that against J.C. Horn, if I'm not mistaken, on the sideline? He had a big one. Jawan Johnson, all right, 52 yards right there in the middle. And then Kamara, 26 yards. I think when Chris got this one on the sideline, the DB fell. So honestly, yes, the Panthers didn't play great. Bryce Young, 17 for 25. They didn't play great, but I still think they could have won that game, right? But here's how the standings currently look as of right now. Panthers are 7-6. Most likely they're going to have to win the division. Now, let's take a look on what that means for the Panthers moving forward. This is going to be courtesy of Darren, all right, with Panthers.com. He's going to basically break everything down. So can they win the division? Of course they can. All they have to do is finish with a better record than the Buccaneers. Having 2 games against the Bucs in week 16 and 18 provides opportunity, but that won't matter as much if they lose out of this week's game against the Saints. In addition to the Saints game and 2 with the Bucs, the Panthers also host the 10-3 Seahawks in week 17. Also a big game right there. The Bucs host the 4-9 Falcons this week, and they go to Miami in week 17. Miami's kind of turning it on a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. This is where it gets tricky, and math is involved at a certain point. Say the Panthers and Bucs split their games and both finish 9-8, or let's get weird. All right, it is NFC South and 8-9. The first tiebreaker is head-to-head games, putting a huge burden on week 16 and 18. The second tiebreaker is division record, all right? And right now, both are sitting at 2-1 with 3 to play. That means the Panthers can't overlook the Saints and the Bucs can't overlook the Falcons. If those stay tied, that's where the Bucs' edge comes in. All right, the third tiebreaker is common opponents, and right now Tampa Bay has a 1-game advantage there. The NFC South played the entire NFC West and AFC East this year. The Panthers are 3-4 in those games, with the Seahawks left to play. The Bucs are 4-3 with the aforementioned Dolphins game left. That week 2 loss obviously hurt the Panthers, all right, when they lost to the Cardinals, since the Bucs beat them, and the same goes for the week 12 loss to the Niners, another Bucs victim this year. Of course, the Panthers beat the Rams and the Bucs didn't, so it's just a 1-game gap. Regardless of what happens in the division games, if the Panthers beat the Seahawks and the Bucs lose to the Dolphins, you're looking at going down another layer in that tiebreaker rabbit hole. So then what happens after that? The 4th tiebreaker is conference record, and right now Carolina's 5-3 to the Bucs 5-4, which creates opportunity for a tie there. The 5th tiebreaker is the strength of victory, which is calculated by the win-loss record of the teams you beat. Woo, woo. All right, obviously this can change wildly week to week based on results. At this particular moment, the Panthers have a 2-game edge in this category, as the 7 teams they beat are combined 42-47-1 compared to the 40-50 in one of the teams the Bucks have beaten. And after that, it gets even weirder. The sixth tiebreaker is strength of schedule in all games, followed by the following things we're not even getting into yet. Best combined ranking among conference teams on points scored and points allowed in all games. Best combined ranking among all teams on points scored and points allowed in all games. Best net points in common games. Best net points in all games. Best net touchdown in all games. And then a coin toss. All right, this is absolutely insane. Now, could the Panthers win the wild card? It's possible. Read right here if you want. When it's all said and done, Panthers have to take care of business in the division, right? They got to beat the Bucks. So let me know your thoughts. All right, we got a few more videos coming this week. We're going to go over some film. Stay tuned for that. All right, tomorrow, the next day, I'll catch you guys later. Panthers advice out. Peace.